I'm Colin,
And I'm Megan.
and this is
Pet Sitter Confessional, an open and honest discussion about life as a pet sitter.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another one of our Friday episodes. Today, we're so thankful to have Eric Curry, owner of Eric Curry's Pets, based out in San Francisco, on to talk a little bit about his background and what it's been like managing his business and what he sees for the future moving forward. So, Eric, thank you so much for coming on today. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Hey, yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. Like Colin said, my name is Eric Curry, and I started Eric Curry's Pets 7 years ago this month in May of 2013, while I was a sophomore in college. I was born and raised in San Francisco, and then I moved to Los Angeles to go to college. And my first year, I did almost exclusively dog boarding out of my two-bedroom apartment. Years 2, 3, 4, and 5 were a mix of overnights, individual walks. I did group hikes, and then I did what I call appointment-based care. So things like light grooming, like nail trims, anal gland expression, and like a few babs here and there. My clientele, I had a large senior clientele in Santa Barbara who preferred if I could come to them. And then this last year, year 6, was a little different. I have a pretty good system together for moving my business. I have a decent social media following, and I learned a few things from moving my business the first time. I wanted to do something a little different and make it kind of a learning year. I thought to myself, when else am I going to have the opportunity to not have to pay rent because I'm living with a family member? I can really learn other aspects of pet care that I've always been wanting to learn. That's why I started connecting with other pet care providers in the Bay Area, mostly in San Francisco, dog trainers, groomers, pet daycares. I personally visited almost every pet shop in San Francisco proper. I also trained as a groomer. My friend owns a grooming business, and it wasn't really my cup of tea, but I'm really grateful for the experience because I learned a lot just from watching her run her business and having the employee experience. And right before COVID happened, I started working at a pet store in San Francisco that specializes in exotic birds. And right when the holidays were starting, I've been keeping track since I started my business of how many clients I've served. And I noticed that I was like, I think in October, I was maybe like 300 pets away from 1,000. So I was like at 750 around there. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I can totally knock this out before the year's over. Like I can totally do this. So and it was a perfect time because it was the holidays. I literally just dove into my business full time, dove into just pet care. And I think like 2 days after Christmas, I served my 1,000th pet. I didn't think that it would happen that quick. It wasn't even necessarily a goal that I was working towards. I think that was kind of when the shift for me kind of happened from, okay, I've served 1,000 pets. I think I'm always going to be in some kind of pet care. But what I really like to do, especially since I started teaching pet care, pet CPR and first aid, is that I want to help other pet care providers, especially people who are just getting started, because there was a whole bunch of stuff that I wish I had known when I first got started. And I think that this profession is one of the best ones out there, if not the best one out there. And pet care owners are just as diverse as pet species. So I think that pet care providers should also be. So that's another thing I'd really like to see going forward. And my vision for the pet care industry is I'd really like it to be more diverse. I'd like us to get paid more, etc. So I guess in a nutshell, that's how the past 7 years have gone.
Wow. Obviously, you are extremely passionate about this, and it's really just been, it sounds like some of the best 7 years of your life. Why did you get started in pet care? Where does that passion come from?
It all started when I think I was 7, when I found my first cat. My parents didn't, I've been surrounded by pets for as long as I can remember, but it wasn't until I was 7 that I got my first quote unquote big pet. Having Tiny, that cat, like really changed my life. That was when so a couple years later, when I was 9, I stopped eating meat. So I became a vegetarian. That was when I decided I wanted to go to vet school one day. So I'm the first person in my family to graduate from college. And in many ways, it was my passion for pets that really propelled me forward, because I knew that I had to get good grades to go to a good college, to go to vet school. And even though my plans have changed, I ended up starting my business instead. In many ways, I feel like I do owe the fact that I have a college degree to my passion and that I found in pet care.
Sure.
I can just go on and on in different aspects of my life. The animals have led me to people and circumstances and situations that you just would not even believe. Or maybe you would, because we're all pet care providers and we know the magic that animals have, that pets have. That's something else that my business has taught me in the past few years, more recently, is that, my business is pets, but the pets lead me to the people. That's how I like to think about it. There's nothing more satisfying than, having your clients express their gratitude to you, having a client tell you that, oh, I'm going to put off going on vacation until you're available because you're the only one I trust. Or having a client tell you, hey, I can stay at work a couple more hours because I don't have to rush back home and change the litter box or walk the dog. To answer your question specifically about how I actually started my business, I wish I could say, oh, I love pets and I started business. But no, actually what happened is I ended up dropping out of college after 2 years. I went back, I finished up, like it's fine, I have my degree. But when I dropped out, in retrospect, I probably wouldn't have been so abrupt about doing it. All of a sudden, I didn't have student loans. I didn't have my on-campus job anymore. And I realized, like, I have to find a way to make money quick and fast. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to pay my rent. And I had my 2 cats. I have to think about my cats. We need a roof over our heads. So I started interviewing at different, I interviewed at a couple vet hospitals, of course, because I had a fair amount of vet experience. I interviewed at a couple doggy daycares. And I interviewed at a private pet sitting company. And I just had this epiphany in the middle of the interview when she was telling me about her business and about starting it or whatever. And I was like, I can totally do this myself. I was like, you're not going to hire me. I remember sitting there waiting for the interview to be over because it was hot in Los Angeles and I had a business to start. So I just wanted her to finish, her spiel so that I could run home and start my business, because I made up my mind right there. I was like, no. And the way I saw it, I had to make this work. There was no plan B. There was no exit. This was it. I had to make it work. And well, I did.
Yeah. I mean, you had that passion and that's so cool how you're sitting there and all of a sudden that click happens and it's like, no, like I can do this. Like I can make this. And you were able to make it work for you on your terms, to make it what you wanted it to be and serve and care for pets how you would want that service to be rendered. And that's just really cool to hear. And if people are listening to this wondering if they should make that switch over onto maybe go independent, like it's totally doable and you've got the passion. And so there are tools and resources out there to start, putting structure and helping you move forward.
Absolutely. And when you're getting started, there's nothing wrong with being on all the apps, on Craigslist, but I always tell people use all the apps and the websites to supplement your efforts. That shouldn't be all that you're doing. You should be finding ways to get in front of people, in front of real people, scheduling meet and greets, talking to people about their pets. But definitely get on all the apps, get on Craigslist. We live in a day and age where you can flip open your phone and literally be connected with huge groups of people with the click of a button. I found clients as an Uber passenger. I found clients on actually dating websites. You'd be surprised. You know how many people like to see a picture of you with a dog and then boom, right there. Well, oh, what do you do? I'm serious.
Opportunities around every corner. Sure.
Absolutely. Yes.
So being in San Francisco, what has your COVID-19 experience been like? You talked about what the past 7 years have been like. What has 2020 been like for you?
2020 has been interesting to say the very least. Everything that was set in motion going into 2020. I was on track to have my biggest year yet. I was booking pet CPR and first aid classes. I had just started working at that pet store, so I was super excited to get back into birds again, something that I haven't. Most of my business has been dogs and cats. So I was super excited to start working with exotic birds again. And then I was also working with a dog trainer a few days a week and learning a lot from him. So I was also an apprentice dog trainer after I left the grooming shop. And then on top of that, I was getting, that's when I was getting my online course together too. So I had hired a marketing team. Like I had somebody redo my entire website. Like I did everything up until the point to where we launched, and COVID-19 happened. And it was devastating, but at the same time, I didn't sign that huge marketing deal which would have been like a huge ad spend, and the whole idea of that was that we were going into summer, which is, as we all know, one of our biggest times. So that would have been the perfect time to formally launch my coaching program. So that just really threw a curveball in everything. I was also extremely fortunate because I had this job at the pet store, and half of our staff was no longer able to work. They either were at a large risk group. We had somebody who had to self-quarantine. So we lost half of our staff when COVID-19 happened. And I started working full-time. I went from 2 days a week to now full-time. I have nothing but gratitude. I mean, I couldn't imagine being stuck at home all day like some of my friends have. I've been fortunate to continue to get a paycheck. When this first started, I felt like there was a very general sense of, we're in this together, we're doing this because it's right and it's the right thing to do. And yes, we're going to get through this. We're all going to get through it together. In true San Francisco fashion, we were the first ones to do the shelter in place, the first city, and then the first state to shut down. And I'll have to be honest, it was a little gratifying seeing the rest of the country follow our lead. And then you start hearing about restaurants that have been in the city for like 40, 50 years that'll never open their doors ever again. Many of the pet stores' neighbors won't be coming back after that. At first, it was nice having the streets empty and people staying at home and, et cetera. But San Francisco is it's a touristy city. And it has a huge nightlife, and the essential workers that come with those, like it's really hit people really hard. And I think that now with the weather getting nicer, people are starting to get restless and they're starting to come out more than they have been. We were really good for, I want to say, a month and a half. And I think that people are kind of at their boiling points.
As of this recording, it's May 25th, and you all have been on lockdown for going on 2 months now, almost, or longer than that. It really sounds like that 2020 hit the pause button on a lot of stuff that you had moving forward.
It did, but I don't like to think of it as a pause button. I almost like to think of it as like a shift. Because what I did was, rather than focus on, I was determined when this went in to not become super depressed during the experience and to make the most of it and to keep, despite everything on the news, despite everything, the way people are constantly worried and you can just feel the anxiety in the air. I was determined to see the positive in everything. The first thing that I thought was like, okay, what can I offer my clients and what can I offer my following? So I started asking on my Instagram stories. And at first I was doing a lot of Facebook lives, a lot of Instagram lives about different pet care topics. I found that people wanted to know just as much about different facts as they wanted to be distracted by my own childhood stories of my pet. And then I found out that people actually preferred if I could do it in a format other than live, because I have followers on complete opposite sides of the world, and some of them couldn't get on for the lives and they weren't going to go back to watch it. So that's kind of how I got my YouTube channel restarted. Was I started moving the videos onto my YouTube channel so that people can share them and watch them at their own discretion. I'm also a certified life coach, which was a certification that I got to implement in my coaching program. And so I started offering free sessions, and doesn't even have to do with pet care. Like, I've helped people plan out the next couple of years of college. I've helped people plan out applying to grad school. I've helped people plan out what they can do now so that they can get a raise when they're finished. So I've been really busy focusing on giving back, and it's been distracting from what's been going on in a good way.
Yeah. It sounds like you're able to look around and go, okay, what are the tools at my discretion right now? What do I have control over, and how can I help out those around me? And that's something that, you said it was a shift that you made. It's stuff that you were already doing, or maybe were interested in initially, but now you were able to invest more time in it.
Exactly. That's exactly how I see it.
So how has the broader pet care community been impacted around you? I know you mentioned that some of the shops have closed down, but what have the other dog walkers and daycare facilities and things like that, how have they been impacted?
So my groomer friends and my daycare facility friends, they've been hit the hardest because grooming and pet daycare, those are not seen as essential services. And usually they have the overhead of a facility to maintain. Like, groomers have their grooming shops, and then obviously if you have a doggy daycare. So not only do they have to worry about their staff's payroll, they have to worry about covering the rent of their building. And then on top, they're not, of course, not getting any business because they were forced to close down. My friends who are dog trainers have done a little better. They've moved a lot of their stuff online, or like virtual sessions, but everyone took a huge hit.
You mentioned earlier how California and San Francisco were some of the really early movers. So what are the current restrictions that you guys are under, and what does that landscape look like?
Yeah, so the streets are still fairly empty, and it's crazy because I've never seen anything like this before. San Francisco is just always such a busy city, especially during like commute hour. The freeways are completely empty. A lot of like small shops have moved to curbside pickup. Like, the city finally let them start doing that. A lot of most restaurants weren't closed for the entire time. They were allowed to reopen, just for delivery and takeout. So no dine-in service. The parks are getting extremely crowded. Parks are getting extremely crowded. Muni, I think they slashed 70% of the lines.
Whoa.
When COVID started. And like, a lot of people, regardless of your income, depend on public transportation.
Right.
But yeah, so they've slowly started to increase service on the public transportation. I know, you really take for granted being able to like go in and buy a shirt or a pair of socks. You take that for granted. And I remember thinking the other day, I was like, I'm going to need a shirt for the next day for this and that. And actually, no, I can't just go in and buy one.
It really does hit home a lot of those things you mentioned. You take for granted, as far as seeing people in the streets having access to things, where that's how we all just ran our lives before. And a lot of us ran our businesses like that too. And now having to look around and go, ooh, operating very differently these days.
Yeah. And who knows? I think a lot of the things that we're doing now, I don't know if they're going to be permanent, but they're going to be there for a while.
What will be very interesting to see the next couple months, what kind of guidelines and regulations get put in place for the foreseeable future. And part of that, is I'm interested in how you have navigated personally and as a business a lot of the current guidelines and new rules, and how has that been like communicating to your clients and just moving through that quagmire of information, it seems like?
I just Memorial Day weekend, have started to see clients again. So I had my last client at the end of February. So it was a good, like, solid 2 months out. And then now, like I said, I've just started seeing new clients, and a lot of my clients have been super awesome about doing virtual meet and greet.
Okay.
And then I remember when it was first shutting down, a lot of my clients were very, very generous tippers. They were also really awesome about recommending me to other people, to their friends, and then letting me know that they were still going to use me if they needed to, and to still keep that communication open. But I learned from the first time that this happened in my business that this is a time when you can really get close to your clients and you can really find out what they need.
Yeah, so talk about that a little bit as kind of some of the big takeaways that you're taking that from this episode. And it sounds like, as you've mentioned a few times, that this isn't the first time that you've had to undergo this. So what are some similarities and differences you've been seeing?
Yeah, so in year 4 of my business, that was the first time that my business completely tanked. I was living in Santa Barbara at the time, and I don't know if you guys remember, there were some pretty bad wildfires.
Yeah.
And then right after the wildfires, you remember what happened?
That I don't. My brain doesn't recall right now.
There were mudslides.
Oh,
huge.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally in Oprah's neighborhood, where I have a significant amount of clients. 22 people died, and the freeway was closed for 3 weeks.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the air was super toxic for like about a month. A lot of people either evacuated or they decided to stay in Santa Barbara. So my entire holiday schedule, my entire holiday repertoire like evaporated like that. It was absolutely horrible. Like, yeah. And then on top of that, I was like, okay, well, at least I have my car. At least I can drive Uber, right? It's New Year's Eve, the last day of the year. Maybe I can make some money because a lot of people take Uber. And then somebody rear-ended me. And I was like, okay, I think that was 2017.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to go to sleep.
Right.
And when I wake up, it'll be a new year.
Oh, no. Wow.
But I have to say that January, I did almost as much business as I had done in the entire previous year.
Oh my gosh.
In just that first month.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was that rebound like?
It was a combination of a couple things. I got really close to my clients. I got to know my clients on a deeper level because we were all experiencing this together. And I found out that, and like I mentioned earlier, a lot of my clients were senior citizens, and they would love to have had somebody come to their house and perform things like nail trims, anal gland expression, or even give their dog a bath.
Mm-hmm.
So as I started to talk to people and find out, I was like, well, I can totally do that. And while you're at it, could you please recommend me to some of your friends? And I found when I actually took the time to have a genuine conversation with each of my clients, like the little ripple effect was actually pretty substantial, especially when I was going out there with a purpose. And it was one of the most beautiful things that happened in that first month of the next year.
Yeah, getting back to what we had talked about earlier of that this is such a people business, and that when you're able to connect with people, your business thrives, right? Like as you mentioned, like you took the time to have some genuine conversations with people of nothing business related or anything, just getting to know them, drawing close to your clients allows them to, that builds that relationship, right? That builds that community, and they like that. And we as caregivers like to have that too.
Absolutely. I mentioned earlier that earlier this year, I had visited almost every pet store in San Francisco, and I was doing it to try to book pet CPR classes, but I was also, doing it to introduce myself and to network with, different pet stores in San Francisco. It was actually one of the pet stores that I visited right before I walked out the door. The owner of the store said, by the way, do you have any bird experience? And boom, that's how I got the job that I'm at now, right before I walked out the door.
Wow. Yeah, just that how powerful those individual moments are that you don't even give really a second thought to, of just going to come in here and ask about stuff, and wow, a new opportunity. So what has that been like this time around, getting close to clients? And you've mentioned a little bit about pivoting services already, but how has the connecting with clients been through COVID?
I've been trying to keep in touch with my clients through my social media. I've been trying to keep up to date with what they want. And like I said, I found that it's an even mixture of they want facts, and then sometimes they want to be distracted. They just want like a funny story or something. And in the process of me doing that, I'm putting content out there. onto my YouTube channel, onto my Facebook page, onto my Instagram page. I think that people also get the sense that it's not all about the dollars. It's not all about the dollars for me, that I care about the pets that I work with. That's why I call my business Eric Curry's Pets, because they're all my pets. Once a part of my pack, always part of my pack.
Yep.
Doing little things that don't have anything to do with getting more business, but just have to do with meeting people where they are and building some sense of community, because we all have been lacking that human touch these past couple months. And I for one have absolutely taken it for granted, how much I miss that.
Yeah, it really has been eye-opening to realize wow, like, yeah, handshakes were just something we all did, and sometimes it was annoying how people shook your hand, and now it's like, please, somebody shake my hand. Like, I just want to like have
Can I just get a hug?
Right, you're right. I just want a hug right now.
Yeah. No, totally. And the thing is, but on the flip side of that, think about that. You could be that person for your client.
Right.
And why shouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Because if it's going to be somebody, why not you? Why not you?
Exactly.
Maybe not a hug, but still reaching out to them and and checking in and seeing how things are going and letting them know of other things that you've got going on, or just how else you can help and serve them in any capacity. So thinking ahead to the rest of 2020, I'm also curious kind of what you see like the rest of the year holds for you and your business.
Oh, another loaded question.
Break out the crystal ball.
The thing is that like I need a crystal ball, because I have no idea. I have no idea. And I'm somebody who has to plan things 2 or 3 months in advance.
Sure.
I mean, not knowing what the rest of 2020 looks like I love going out dancing once or twice a week. I play on an ultimate frisbee team. I don't know when I'm ever going to get to do either one of those ever again. What I do know is that I can sit here and worry about it, and then my time is going to be stressful and it's not going to fix the situation. Or I can take it one day at a time and try to make the most of it. This entire time has been such a huge learning experience for all of us. And I think if there's one thing that I've learned, is that try not to let your lows get too low and your highs get too high, because otherwise you're just going to be riding a roller coaster the entire time.
Try not to ride a roller coaster. Yeah, because there is so much outside of our control, and yet there is so much within our own control. And this we never realized how much we really had control over until everything else was stripped away, and we were left with most of the time nothing but ourselves and the four walls around us. And
absolutely.
And these skills and tools that we're all fumbling our way through to try and figure out how to use as far as coping and building up resiliency, like those are lessons that I hope we all take forward with us day after day, year after year in the future, and we don't forget these hard moments.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Thinking about advice for pet sitters out there, they're listening, they're in various situations and in various levels of concern and where their businesses are going. Would like to know some advice that you'd have as they're trying to figure out a path forward and a way forward through all of this.
Yes. Awesome. So I actually put together 5 tips that anybody can do today to kickstart your business. And this is based on the first time my business tanked and different times of my business. But these are things that I actually did that helped me out, because not only did my business tank in year 4, but I moved my business twice. So I'd like to think that I've developed some pretty good systems for getting things back up and running. So if you guys have a pen and paper, so like I said earlier, number 1, genuinely, if you haven't already, genuinely reach out to your clients and ask them how they've been coping. Ask how their family's doing, ask how their pet's doing, find out what their needs are. Don't even say anything about your business. Don't even say anything unless they ask. to make conversation. But like I talked earlier, when the mudslides happened, that's when I became very close to my clients. And that's the only reason that I even had those conversations. That pretty much became my business for the next year. um, because not only was I finding out what my clients needed, but I asked them if they would please recommend me to their friends. So just one of those conversations, for example, I remember one lady had a friend who lived at a nursing home in Santa Barbara who had 2 cats. And then just based off of that one conversation, every Saturday morning, I was doing nail trims at the nursing home. Nail trims don't take more than 5 or 10 minutes, boom. Like I had that recurring business every Saturday just based off of one conversation that I had. So not only was I able to, find out what my clients actually needed so I could move my business going forward, but they were more than happy to recommend me to their friends. So it's like 2 in 1. Okay, so then number 2 is put together an unbeatable offer, an offer that they can't resist. In the past, I've done discounted nail trims, package walks. I've done discounted group hikes, although you probably don't want to do any group stuff during COVID, but definitely send out some kind of offer, because I think that people are a lot better at responding to something rather than coming up with it themselves, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So many of my clients might not even know that they need my services or they need a service that I have until I offer it. That's what I found during this process too.
Right.
So yeah, put together some kind of offer and throw it out there. Throw it out there to your email list, your text list, on your social media, and see what you can get with the offer. And then number 3, if they don't need any care during this time, ask if they would consider purchasing a gift certificate. And while it may be in that same conversation, you can slip in that it would be really great if they could leave you a review and give you and recommend you to someone else as well. I always tell people when they're starting their pet care businesses to not only ask for a review, a Yelp review, a Facebook review, etc., or what have you, but also ask for a recommendation, because it takes 2 seconds more to ask. But a recommendation is literally marketing dollars that you don't have to spend.
Right. It's someone else out there marketing for you, which is wonderful.
And word of mouth is the best form of advertising.
It is, yeah.
The most trustworthy. So number 4, what support and community can you offer your clients right now? Well, I found, like I told you guys earlier, that people wanted to be distracted and people also wanted to learn pet facts. How did I find that out? I asked people on my Instagram story. And because I stayed engaged with my audience, I found out that, my engagement on my Instagram's lives wasn't going up because my people on the other side of the world had a hard time getting on the lives. And then if they weren't going to go back and watch the recording, which is only up for 24 hours anyway. And if I'm going to put the work into making a video, why not make it permanent? And also because it's not a live, I can prepare a little more. So that's just an example of what I did. But this is a time to start your blog. This is a time to start that YouTube channel. Start engaging on social media, right? What else do we have time to do if you're sitting at home?
Right.
Do all those things like the hashtag research, etc. Because I mean, we all know by this point, if you're not on social media, you're not in business nowadays. Like, you have to have a social media presence. So tweak out all the things, come up with a social media calendar, do all those things. But definitely, I think this is a really great time to build your following by offering your people what they want. And you're only going to know what they want by asking.
Yeah. What's it going to, the worst thing that can happen is they're just not going to respond. Right. It's
right.
Yeah, right. But you won't know, as you said, you won't know until you ask. And it doesn't take a lot, and it can be so powerful of just that one simple ask.
Totally. And I think that a lot of times we talk ourselves out of it in our own mind before we even open our mouths. So a quick little thing that I like to do is, I don't know if you've heard of the book, The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins.
I have not.
Okay, well, the gist of it is that when you're getting ready to do something that you're supposed to do, but you're looking for any little distraction to get out of it, immediately start counting backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and just do it. And there's a whole psychology behind how you kind of trick your brain and you distract yourself and you end up accomplishing the task. And I can't completely describe it. It's like the gist of it is that you kind of trick your brain by distracting yourself.
Sure.
And you just, and you don't end up talking yourself out of doing it.
Right.
And then the last tip, no, 5, and then I have a little bonus tip. But if you haven't already, start getting a wait list together. I have a wait list of people who want pet CPR and first aid classes because they would prefer that I teach them in person rather than do the online class. Like I mentioned earlier, I have people who, when this opens back up, they can't wait to do a meet and greet with me, or they can't wait to go on vacation, but they want to know when my availability is. So I've been keeping a list of people's names, and the minute things start opening back up, I'm going to go down the list and start calling people and start setting up appointments right there on the phone. Even if, and you can tell people, even if they're not planning a trip anytime soon, go out and get that meet and greet, because that's a whole other conversation about the magic of the meet and greet. But getting out there and doing it, and then having people see how you interact with their dog, it's just, it opens up a whole world of possibilities.
Right. Well, and because while they might not need you for 3 months, they may recommend you to somebody who needs you tomorrow when you leave. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And not only that, they might not need you for 3 months, but if you wait 3 months to go and talk to them, they might have already found someone.
Yes, it does not hurt to get that out of the way, because it's so powerful and will be doing work for you in the background in the meantime.
And then last but not least, the little bonus tip I have is that if you are a company that has a large staff, if you haven't already, I'd consider doing a GoFundMe for your employees, because that also gets the word out about your business and gets people talking about your business. And the business owners that I know who have done that have been super, super successful with GoFundMes.
Yeah.
So if you haven't already done that, that might be something to consider.
Yeah, because your clients, it's hard to remember this sometimes, but your clients genuinely like you. And your clients genuinely want to see you do well and succeed and be around to continue providing the excellent care for Fido. And they are looking for ways to contribute and give back and support. And so if you don't offer it, again, if you never ask, you won't get you won't find anything out. So if you never offer, how will you know if what kind of support is going to be there?
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Eric, I am so thankful for you coming on the show today and sharing your experiences and those wonderful tips. And I got to say, I'm so thankful that Tiny was in your life and instilled this passion and drive for you to help others and provide that excellent care that you do for pets. So if people have other questions or want to reach out and follow along with those YouTube videos or Instagram posts that you're doing, how can they do that?
Yeah. Well, one more time, thank you so much for having me on here. When I started following you guys, I never would have imagined that I'd be one of the interviews you guys would be doing. So I love pet care. There's really no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Yeah. So this has just been so much fun. But probably the best way that people can reach out to me, the quickest way and the easiest, is probably through Instagram, Eric Curry's Pets. Don't forget the S in between the curry and the pets. And then you could also send me an email at eric@ericcurryspets.com. If there's like a video about some pet care topic that you'd like a better understanding of, or you'd like to clear up, or something with your clients, shoot me a message. And if you want to know, I'm sure other people would too. So I'd love to make a YouTube video about that. So I always say this at my pet CPR workshop. In pet care, we have the unique distinction in that if money were no object, this is still what most of us would be doing. And, that really can't be said for most other professions. Usually there's some form of trade-off. So I really want to thank you guys, 1, for being pet care providers, and 2, for taking the time to get on here and learn more about our amazing industry and allowing me to share with you guys. So thank you so much for listening, guys. And thank you so much for having this and for having me, Colin.
You're very welcome. It's been a very real pleasure. And we hope to have you on again soon, get an update, and get some more information about being awesome pet care providers.
Thank you. I would love that.
I know most of us can sympathize with how Eric is viewing the rest of the year, just trying to ride that roller coaster. And those 5 great tips that he ended with will really help smooth out all of those ups and downs. Megan and I would love to hear about how you are doing and what your outlook is for the rest of the year. Give us a call at 636-364-8260 or shoot us an email at feedback@petsitterconfessional.com.